దూర విద్యా విధానంలో డాక్టర్ బిఆర్ అంబేద్కర్ ఓపెన్ యూనివర్సిటీ దేశంలోనే మొట్టమొదటి సార్వత్రిక విశ్వవిద్యాలయం. దాదాపు 2.5 దశాబ్దాలుగా దూర విద్యా విధానం ద్వారా కంప్యూటర్ కోర్సును అనుసంధానం చేస్తూ BA, BCom, BSc డిగ్రీ కోర్సులను అందిస్తోంది. పోస్ట్ గ్రాడ్యుయేషన్ స్థాయి, డిగ్రీ, డిప్లొమా స్థాయి కోర్సులను ఔత్సాహికులైన విద్యార్థులకు అందిస్తోంది. డాక్టర్ బిఆర్ అంబేద్కర్ సార్వత్రిక విశ్వవిద్యాలయం స్థానికంగా స్వయం బోధనా పద్ధతిలో ముద్రణ రూపంలో రూపొందించిన కోర్స్ మెటీరియల్ అందిస్తోంది. కోర్స్ మెటీరియల్ అధ్యయనానికి సహకరించే విధంగా రేడియో, టెలివిజన్ పాఠ్యాంశాల ఆధారంగా కార్యక్రమాలు ప్రసారం చేస్తోంది. అధ్యయన కేంద్రాల ద్వారా ఏర్పాటు చేసే సలహా సంసర్గ తరగతులు, సైన్స్ ప్రాక్టికల్ సౌకర్యాలు విద్యార్థులకు స్వయం అధ్యయనానికి ఒక చక్కటి అవకాశం. ఇవి విద్యార్థి సమీపంలో ఉండే అధ్యయన కేంద్రం నుంచే పొందొచ్చు.
A very warm good afternoon to our viewers, and I welcome all the students of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Open University Department of Zoology. Today's topic on our teleconference is about endocrine system. Endocrine system, which is a very interesting and an important topic for our today's class. It's because our system is controlled by not only the neurotransmitters or the nervous system, but also by the endocrine system. And as I said, it is an interesting topic. The complete glance will be discussed with Dr. G. Sridhar sir, who is an assistant professor contract from University College of Women's, Osmania University, Hyderabad. Now, this topic will be interesting for BSc final year and MSc first year students, as the topic has been asked on our entrance exams also recently, which we had for different types of exams. We had 3 or 4 questions related to endocrine system. So, if the students have any doubts during our introduction and during our discussion, you can call upon to the numbers that have been given below: 040-270-31431-32 and 33. So, you can call up onto these numbers and find ask any doubts related to our topic for today. So, coming to endocrine system. Now, what is this endocrine system? It is a network of glands in our body that make up the hormones which target the cells. Now, endocrine system is one which maintains the homeostasis in our body. When I am saying homeostasis, it stabilizes different types of the target cells which is useful for our body. Now, how is this homeostasis gained? It is because of the hormones released by these glands. As I said, endocrine system is a network of glands that releases specific hormones on the specific target cells. Now, what is this glands? These glands are nothing but those which produce or secrete these hormones which target that particular tissue or organs. Now, these hormones which are also which are produced by these glands, this is the one which gives us the homeostasis, or it can also be called as chemical messengers, that is messages given from one part to another part. That is, the hormones which are produced from one cell can be targeted to the neighboring cells, or it can also be targeted to the distant organs. How are they done? The hormones are secreted into the neighboring cells, and this neighboring interstitial cells is taken up by the blood capillaries, and from the blood capillaries it is gone into the circulation, and from the circulation the hormones reaches our target cells for the production of that particular or activation of that particular hormones. Now, these hormones can be of 3 types. They can be protein derivatives or the amino acid derivatives, they can be peptide derivatives, and they can also be steroid derivatives. The proteins The amino acid derivatives, these are the examples of epinephrine and norepinephrine, whereas the peptide ones are the ones that releases oxytocin and vasopressin. Vasopressin is nothing but our antidiuretic hormones. Then we have the steroid hormones. The name itself tells us steroids means lipid derivatives of the cholesterols. Thus, they produce this aldosterone, the estrogen, the progesterone and testosterone. Now, coming to the, now that you have understood the hormones, now you have to understand what are the different types of glands that are present in our body. Now, if you can see in the picture, you have the first, the hypothalamus. Now, the endocrine system is in coordination with the nervous system and the immune system. Now, what is the difference between these three systems? The nervous system is the one that gives us an instant reaction. That is, the moment the neurotransmitters are released, it reaches the target organ and gives us that instant action. Now, whereas the immune system takes a little bit of time, which takes care of the immune system, that is the production of your WBC in our body. Now, what does this endocrine system do? The endocrine system releases slowly and the activation is slow over a period of time. Now, what are the parts of the endocrine system? First one, we should not forget the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus that you find at the base of the brain is just beside to the thalamus region. Now, behind this hypothalamus is their pituitary glands, and behind this pituitary gland you have the pineal gland. Now, these three glands are very important, which are present in the brain. Now, after that you have your thyroid gland, which is present in the neck region. The thyroid gland is again made up of bilobed structure, which is in contact with the isthmus, that is a skin which surrounds them, which controls or keeps them in close contact by isthmus. Now, after this thyroid, you have another 4 lobes called parathyroid gland, which are present on the behind of the thyroid glands. Then coming below is our lungs, and in between the lungs you have the thymus. Now, the thymus, the name itself tells that it produces the T cell for the immune system. Now, after that you are talking about the pancreas. Now, where do you find the pancreas? It is just beside the stomach region, which opens up into the first GI tract, that is the duodenum. Now, we all know what are the pancreas and what are the hormones that are secreting them. We will be discussing all this in detail with the help of Dr. Sridhar sir. Now, after that pancreas, you have the adrenal glands. The adrenal glands which are present above the kidneys, 2 adrenal glands on either side. Then after that you have the gonads, that is which produces the estrogen, progesterone in the females and testosterone in the male. So, these are the different types of glands that we have, and each one has specific target. Now, when we are talking about these targets, the secretion is, as I said, can be endocrine in nature, paracrine in nature and autocrine in nature. The endocrine, as we discussed, the hormones are released into the periphery of this cells, and from there it enters into the blood circulation. From there it reaches the target cell. What is this paracrine? Paracrine is releasing of one cell from one cell, the hormones from one cell targets the adjacent cell, is a paracrine system. And what do you mean by autocrine? Self. The released target transmitter affects its own cell. Now, you find this autocrine mostly in the nervous system, where the neurotransmitters are given, that is acetylcholine esterase. The acetylcholine is activated as autocrine system. Now, with this basic information, we will start with what is hypothalamus and what is its importance. The detail will be given by Dr. Sridhar sir. Sir, can you please talk about this hypothalamus and the pituitary gland and what are its importance?
Yes, ma'am. Okay. As madam said, that madam has given the brief introduction with regard to the endocrine system and different types of chemical messengers released by the different types of glands, as what is that autocrine, paracrine, mesocrine, like endocrine. Then after that, madam given the list of endocrine glands which are present in the mammalian or human beings or mammals or different types of vertebrates. Then first we will discuss about the pituitary gland. After that, we will discuss about the hypothalamus, which is very important gland, which is especially which is having the role of in the maintaining the different types of metabolic reactions in view of homeostatic mechanisms, which is maintaining the our body in a constant process that is called as homeostatic process. As madam said, that first we will discuss about the pituitary gland. Pituitary gland is a master gland which is present in the brain region, especially if you see the anatomical structure or anatomical view of the pituitary gland. Pituitary gland situated in the sella turcica region, or you can also call as hypophyseal foci. That means, if you see the brain region, you will find the thalamus, then hypothalamus. Below the hypothalamus, you will find a bone that is called as a sphenoid bone. On this sphenoid bone, the sphenoid bone will be like this. On this sphenoid bone, you will find a groove-like structure. This groove we are calling as sella turcica. On this sella turcica, you will find a small 500 mg length, like a peanut-like structure, that is called as pituitary gland. This pituitary gland attaches to the brain or hypothalamic region like with a stalk-like structure, that is called as infundibulum. This is the anatomical view or anatomical structure of the pituitary gland you will find in the brain region. Then you can also call this pituitary gland as master gland. We will discuss after this. Then if you see that pituitary gland is having the different types of parts and different types of regions. Basically, the pituitary gland has classified into two regions, that is called as anterior pituitary gland and posterior pituitary gland. Then once again, this anterior pituitary gland, they have classified or they have divided into three regions, that is called as pars digitalis, pars tuberalis and pars intermedia. Then the next region, that is called as posterior pituitary gland. This posterior pituitary gland you can also call as pars nervosa. Then first we will discuss about the anterior pituitary gland. After that, we will discuss about the hormones which is releasing from the anterior pituitary gland and their function and their regulation by the different types of hormones which is released from the hypothalamic region. Then we will discuss about the neurohypophysis, you can also call as posterior pituitary gland. There are two important hormones which is secreted by the posterior pituitary gland as well as their function. This is the way we will discuss about the each gland and their structure and function, their anatomical view and anatomical physiological functions. Then their pathology, especially hypersecretion and what is that hyposecretion. We will find the different types of human diseases, especially in view of endocrine system. Yes, first we will discuss about the structure of the posterior of the pituitary gland. You can see the slide here. Mainly the pituitary gland, you will find anterior pituitary gland. In anterior pituitary gland, they have classified into what is that pars digitalis, pars tuberalis and pars intermedia. The main hormones which is secreted from the anterior pituitary gland, that is 6 hormones. You see here, this is hypothalamic region. Below the hypothalamic region, there is an infundibulum, a stalk-like structure, a small structure. Then you will find pituitary gland. I am exposing with the green color. Like this, you will find the structure. Then they have divided this anterior pituitary gland into 3 regions. That 3 regions, you can also tell that. Yes, this slide. Pars digitalis, pars tuberalis, pars intermedia. The main endocrine function with relation to the pituitary gland you can find in the pars digitalis region as well as anterior pituitary gland. Mainly the anterior pituitary gland secreted 6 hormones. These 6 hormones can regulate or stimulate or control the other endocrine system or other endocrine glands like thyroid gland, like adrenal gland, like what is that reproductive glands like ovary and testis, that is gonads. That is why we are calling this anterior pituitary as well as pituitary gland as master gland of the endocrine system or orchestra of the endocrine system. Then you see what are the hormones which is secreted, as we have discussed just now, the 6 hormones which is secreted by the anterior pituitary gland. The first 2 hormones which is non-endocrine target, I mean to say that they are not stimulate any other endocrine glands like what is that growth hormone as well as prolactin. These two hormones, that is growth hormone and prolactin hormone, they cannot target any other endocrine glands. But coming to the other four endocrine hormones which is secreted by the endocrine system or pituitary gland, that is FSH hormone, LH hormone, TSH hormone and ACTH hormone. We will discuss the full form also. FSH means follicle stimulating hormone. This follicle stimulating hormone can activate the gonads. Then what is the main function of this follicle stimulating hormone? The name itself is explaining you. Follicular stimulating hormone means, for example, if you take the ovary in the female reproductive system or female gonad system, every month one egg will be developed in the menstrual cycle of the human female. I mean to say that after the birth, more or less you will find these 60 to 70,000 of the gonads or eggs or primary follicles are in the germinal epithelium of the female ovary. But why only one egg will be developed as a Graafian follicle or a developed egg? Because of the FSH hormone concentration which we are finding in the bloodstream, which is secreted from the anterior pituitary gland. That means every month one egg will be developed under the influence of the follicle stimulating hormone. This is about the FSH hormone, which is the steroidal hormone. Then coming into the LH hormone. The LH hormone means luteinizing hormone. Luteinization means popping out of a developed egg from the Graafian follicle. This is called as luteinization. This hormone is also secreted from the anterior pituitary gland. Then these are the two hormones, that is FSH and LH, which can stimulate the gonads. This is in view of male, in view of female, as well as in view of male. It is also useful for the development of the spermatozoa or spermatic cells or male reproductive secondary sexual characteristics in view of male, as well as testes. Then coming into the other two hormones which is secreted from the anterior pituitary gland, that is called as TSH. TSH means thyroid stimulating hormone. Thyroid stimulating hormone which is secreted by the pars digitalis region of the anterior pituitary, then which can activate the thyroid gland which is present in our neck region, as madam said that below the larynx region where we are finding in our neck region. Then the role of TSH. The TSH hormone is released from the anterior pituitary gland, then enters into the bloodstream by the plasma proteins, carried by the plasma proteins to the target region, that is called as the thyrotropic cells which is present in the thyroid gland. Then the thyrotropic cells will be activated, then the hormones which is present in the thyroid gland which will be secreted like thyroxine, that is the T3 and T4 hormones. That is the main role of the TSH. Then coming into the other hormone, that is called as ACTH, that means adrenocorticotropic hormone. Adrenocorticotropic hormones means mainly this hormone can activate the adrenal gland, like what is the TSH is activating the thyroid gland, like ACTH is activating the adrenal gland which is present on the anterior position of your kidney. I mean to say that if you see the adrenal gland broad structure, because we will discuss elaborately after some time, if you see the structure of the adrenal gland, you will find mainly two regions, that is called as medulla region and cortex region. This cortex region will release the different types of hormones like what is that mineralocorticoids and sexual corticoids like androgens like testosterone and estrogen hormones. Mainly the cortex region will be activated by this ACTH hormone which is released from the anterior pituitary gland. That is why the four hormones like FSH, LH, ACTH and TSH hormones, they are activating the other endocrine system. That is why we are calling these four hormones as tropic hormones. Tropic hormones mean the hormones which is stimulating the other endocrine system. The other non-endocrine organs like GH and what is that prolactin hormone. These two hormones can activate the non-endocrine hormone. Then we will discuss about the prolactin hormone. The prolactin hormone can regulate the mammary glands mainly. That means milk ejection after the parturition, that means after the delivery we need the milk. This milk development in the mammary gland or the follicular cells of the mammary gland will be activated by or stimulated by this prolactin hormone which is synthesized from the or which is released from the anterior pituitary gland.
This is about the hormones which is secreted from the anterior pituitary gland. Then coming into the other region, a second region of the pituitary gland, that is called as posterior pituitary gland. You can also call this posterior pituitary gland as pars nervosa. So, why we are calling this pars nervosa? Because mainly this posterior pituitary gland under the control of hypothalamic region, because the hormones which is secreted by this posterior pituitary gland, just now madam said that oxytocin and vasopressin. You can also call this vasopressin as ADH. We will discuss why we are calling this ADH as vasopressin we are calling as ADH. First we will discuss about the oxytocin. Yes, oxytocin is very, very important hormone, present day scenario as well as in the social system. You can also call this oxytocin as labor hormone. You can also call this oxytocin as motherhood hormone. I mean to say that we will see generally the mother will have more affection than the father on the children's. You can also see the other vertebrates, non-human vertebrates like dogs, like cats. After delivery, if you go near to that mother will like ferocious. It can bite, it can kill you like sometimes. I mean to say that this oxytocin can develop the motherhood characteristics in the mother after the delivery. But the main function of the oxytocin we will find at the time of labor pains. That means it is useful to generate the contractions in the smooth muscles of the uterus. Then the baby will come out from the mother's womb. This is called as parturition process. This is the main function of the oxytocin hormone. Some extent this oxytocin also useful for the development of lactogenesis. I mean to say prolactin function. Okay, prolactin is synthesis of the milk, but oxytocin is ejection of the milk from the mammary glands. This is the difference between the oxytocin and prolactin, because many times they are asking the questions in competitive exams, especially for applied science students. What is the difference between the prolactin and oxytocin? Then coming into the next hormone, that is called as vasopressin. Yes, I mean to say that just now madam said that vasopressin hormone you can also call as ADH. That means anti-diuretic hormone. That means we will take like more or less 5 liters of water every day, 4 to 5 liters of the water every day. But if you find the glomerular filtrate, that means the kidney will filter our blood, it will filter the volume of the glomerular filtrate like more or less 70 liters. But every day we will urinate only 1.3 to 1.5 liters of the urine. So what will be happening this 70 liters of the water? Why we are only releasing or excreting only 1.3 to 1.5 liters of the water? What are the amount of the water where it is going? Mainly this vasopressin. This vasopressin is useful for the reabsorption of the glomerular filtrate or the water which is filtering by the kidneys from the renal tubule. That's why we are excreting the 1.3 liters or 1.5 liters of the urine, a concentrated urine from our kidneys. This is that's why we are calling this anti-diuretic. Diuretation means lossing of more water, lossing of more urine. This is called as that's why we are calling, as Mason just now said, that ADH. And there will be a problem we will find if you see the pathophysiology of the pituitary gland. If it is not growth hormone is useful for the development of the muscles, development of the tissues of different types of body organs. If the growth hormone is high, you will find a disease that is called as acromegaly. Then if you are finding the low secretion, that is called as dwarfism. Then if you are finding the less concentration of the ADH hormone, then there will be a important disease we can discuss, that is called as diabetes insipidus. Diabetes insipidus. This is about the importance of the pituitary gland, the hormones and their function.
So, very well said, sir, about the hypothalamus and the pituitary glands. And viewers and the students, you must have noticed that the pituitary gland is divided into two regions, that is the anterior lobe and the posterior lobe. And you have also understood what are the hormones that are produced by the anterior lobe and the posterior lobe. And you also should have concentrated that the posterior pituitary gland or the posterior lobe of the pituitary gland is in contact with the neurotransmitters. Only then when they get the information from the neurons is the oxytocin and the vasopressin hormones being released. Now, sir, you also talked about the different types of the pituitary gland hormones and the hypothalamus, how they are in coordination. Now, the viewers would like to understand the role of the thyroid glands and its importance.
Yes, madam. Yeah, as madam said that, we will find a sequence of the endocrine glands in the human being. After the pituitary gland, we will find the thyroid gland in our neck region. Especially if you see the trachea, you will find the tracheal region. Below the tracheal region, we will find the larynx. Below the larynx, we will find the one set of, that means one pair of thyroid glands or glands which is present belongs to thyroid. These two glands attached with a connection that is called as isthmus. Mainly the thyroid gland will release the two hormones that is called as a T3 and T4. You can also call this T3 as triiodothyronine. As we have discussed that, I will show the diagram of this thyroid gland. Yes, you can see the slide here. The thyroid gland we will find in the neck region. These are the two lobes which we are finding in the thyroid region. These two lobes are attached with a connection that is called as isthmus. This isthmus which is connecting these two lobes. Then mainly just now we have discussed that there is a hormone which is released from the thyroid gland that is called as the TSH. This TSH released from the anterior pituitary gland and reaching to the bloodstream through the carrier proteins which is present in the bloodstream reach to the thyroid gland, and there are some of the receptors which is present in the thyroid gland cell membrane that is called as thyroid gland stimulating receptors. These receptors stimulated after the attachment of the TSH, this TSH will activate the thyrotropic cells which is present in the thyroid gland. Then thyrotropic cells will release this T3 and T4. Sir, what is this T3 and T4? This T3 means triiodothyronine. That means one tyrosine molecule or tyrosine amino acid attaches with the 3 iodine molecule. Then this is called as triiodothyronine. Then once again there is one more hormone that is called as T4. T4 means 4 iodine molecule attaches with the 1 tyrosine molecule. Now this is called as 4 iodine molecules. If it is present, that is called as iodine T4. Then if it is present is 3, then that is called as tri. I mean to say that, but out of this T3 and T4, which is the thyroxine? T4 is a thyroxine hormone. But what is the main function of this thyroxine hormone or this T3 and T4? Mainly thyroxine hormone is useful for the development of the metabolic reactions in different types of cells. You see, the thyroxine hormone can develop can stimulate the different types of the cells and maintain the different types of metabolic reactions as well as the BMR, basal metabolic rate in our body. Sir, how it will be present? Mainly this thyroxine hormone can useful for the glucogenolysis as well as gluconeogenesis as well as lipolysis. I mean to say that the main function for the metabolic rate, the main substrate for the metabolic rates or for the respiratory reactions, that is glucose. I mean to say that the thyroxine hormone is useful for the increasing the glucose concentration over the body or availability of the glucose to the cell for the development of the energy in the different types of metabolic reactions. This is the main role of the thyroxine hormone. And one more important thing, what is the source of the iodine in our body? The only one source in iodine in our body, that is food material or the salt which we are taking from our food. That is the only one source. But we will take the iodine as iodide. That's why nowadays in televisions and the government, especially central government, is telling that you please take the iodized salt. This iodide will reach to the cell and in presence of an enzyme that is called as peroxidase, converting as iodine, this iodine will attach with the your tyrosine amino acid and form the T3 and T4. Especially this T4 is useful for the development and maintaining the different types of metabolic reactions and releasing the energy, optimum amount of the energy for the different types of energy metabolisms in our body. Then coming to the pathophysiology of this thyroid gland, mainly if the thyroid gland thyroxine hormone concentration is more, that is called as hyperthyroidism. If the thyroxine hormone concentration is less, that is called as hypothyroidism. There are different types of the disease you will find in the thyroid pathophysiology, that is called as cretinism, myxoedema, then exophthalmic disease. Finally, we will find a disease that is called as goiter. I mean to say that especially the myxoedema, you will find the bulging between the eyes. That means because of the water deposition below the eyes, then you will find the what is that myxoedema. Then cretinism, this myxoedema and cretinism mainly because of the hypothyroidism. Then you will find one more two diseases that is because of the hyperthyroidism, that is called as goiter as well as exophthalmic diseases. You see, come to the goiter disease, especially in women after 40, we will find a disease that is called as autoimmune hyperthyroidism. I mean to say that after because of the stress, mainly we will find the, if you take that 1:10, if you are finding the what is that autoimmune hyperthyroidism in the 10 women, only one male. But why it is like this? Because there are autoantibodies which you can find against the TSH receptors which is present on the thyrotropic cells. Then the autoantibodies will come and bind on the what is that thyrotropic stimulating cells. Then continuously the TSH will be releasing in the what is the thyroxine is releasing in the thyroid gland, then activating the hyperactivating the metabolic reactions. Then it is causing the what is that goiter disease. Then finally it is leads to the death or fatal conditions, that is called as what is that Graves disease. That means it will take you to the graveyard. This is about the pathophysiology with regard to the thyroid gland. Then coming into the next gland, that is called as a parathyroid gland. Para means, just now said that para means beside. Just now madam said, well, when she is explaining about the autocrine and paracrine. Para means beside, that means adjacent cells. That means the thyroid gland which is parathyroid gland which is beside to thyroid gland, there are 4 lobes you can find. What is that? Each lobe, each thyroid gland is having the 2 lobes of the parathyroid glands. Then this parathyroid gland mainly releasing one hormone that is called as a parathormone. This parathormone is useful for the calcium metabolism in our body. It's very, very important for the development of the bones, for the development of the different types of the cell communicating system. That is the role of calcium in our body. Okay, I mean to say that somebody is telling that you can go to the sunlight, you will get the D, vitamin D. If you drink the milk, you will get the vitamin D, you will get the calcium. But we need the calcium metabolism. That means entering the calcium or usage of the calcium by the cells or by the tissues, you will 100% we need a optimum concentration of this parathormone. Then madam said that one important gland that is called as the pancreas. Especially nowadays, pancreas is having the high metabolic, that is that importance in our high physiological importance in our body, that is called as pancreas. Just now madam said that glands are 2 types, that is exocrine gland and endocrine gland. But there is a contradictory, there is one more gland, that is a composite gland or complex gland. Yes, pancreas is a exocrine gland, pancreas is a endocrine gland. That's why pancreas is having the 2 types of portions, both exocrine portion as well as endocrine portions. What is the portion of the pancreas which is related to the exocrine? The gland which is secreted their secretions into the ducts or vessels, that is called as exocrine gland, especially digestive glands. You see, pancreas is a exocrine gland. The exocrine part of the pancreas, that is called as acinar cells or pancreatic acini cells. They will release the pancreatic juices into the proximal portion of the duodenum or small intestine. Then it is useful for the digestion of the different types of food materials. I don't discuss here. Then coming to the endocrine portion of the pancreas, there are a group of cells which is present in the pancreas. somewhere not like acinar cells, very less amount, but group of cells. That is called as islets of Langerhans. The cells has discovered by Langerhans, that's why we are calling as islets of Langerhans. This islets of Langerhans belongs to endocrine portion of the pancreas. That's why pancreas is having the both exocrine as well as endocrine. That's why we are calling as complex gland as well as composite gland. Then what are the important endocrine importance of the pancreas? The endocrine importance of the pancreas is mainly the islets of Langerhans, a group of cells which is containing the three types of cells. The first type of cell that is called as alpha cells, the second type of cells that is called as beta cells, the third type of cells that is called as gamma cells, alpha, beta and gamma. The alpha cells will release a important hormone that is called as glucagon. You can also call all this hormone as hyperglycemic hormone. Then beta cells will release a hormone, very important hormone. Now in a present day scenario, especially in view of medical pathophysiology, that is called as insulin hormone. Then the last hormone that is called as a somatostatin, which is released by the gamma cells, or you can also say that omega cells, some books they are giving as omega cells. Then coming into this is the hormones. Then coming into what are the different structural or endocrine function of these hormones? Mainly the glucagon, insulin and somatostatin. First we will discuss about the insulin, because which is very important in view of medical pathophysiology. When we are taking the meal or when we are taking the food, the glucose concentration in the blood will be increased or enhanced. What is the normal concentration of the glucose in our body? That is 110 to 120, what is that milligrams per what is the deciliter. I mean to say that when you are taking the food, the concentration of the glucose will be high, then that glucose will be stored in our body, especially in the hepatic cells or liver cells. But how it will be? Because there is a hormone will be released from our beta cells of the pancreas or islets of Langerhans, that is called as insulin. When it is finding or it is getting the signal, when you are finding the high glucose level in our body, then this insulin will be released. This glucose in presence of insulin hormone converted as glycogen. This converted glycogen will be stored in the what is that hepatic cells. Like this, the high glucose will be stored in the hepatic cells. When you need it, then this glycogen will be converted as glucose, then it will be useful for the different types of cellular regulations or cellular reactions. This is the main function of the insulin. When you are not finding the insulin, then this glucose will be find like glucose, then this glucose will be filtered from the what is that kidney, then you will find in the urine more glucose, then that is the disease we are calling as diabetes mellitus. Then coming into the second hormone, which is released from the alpha cells of the what is that pancreas, that is called as glucagon. But we are not giving the more importance to the like glucagon, because 100% insulin and glucagon have the same importance in view of physiology or in view of physiological function, because when your body needed glucose, the glucose stored as glycogen in the hepatic cells. This stored glycogen in presence of glucagon converted as glucose, then this glucose will be enters into the bloodstream and works for the different types of or useful for the different types of metabolic reactions. That's why there is an important what is that physiological role for the glucagon as well as insulin. Then the last hormone which is released from the pancreas, that is called as somatostatin. There is a less work they have done. What is the research on the somatostatin? According to the literature, the somatostatin will works as the what is that control of the secretion from the alpha cells and beta cells. This is about the hormones which is released from the pancreas. Then next gland which you are finding on the kidneys, that is called as adrenal gland. Adrenal gland having the high importance in view of glucose metabolism, in view of mineral metabolism, in view of synthesis of the what is that your sexual androgens, like what is the testosterone, progesterone, estrogen from the different types of gonads, like what is that ovaries and testes. First we will see the structure of the adrenal gland. The anatomical view, as madam said, that the anatomical view of the adrenal gland is very simple. You will find the kidneys, the right kidney and left kidney. On the anterior position of the right kidney and left kidney, you will find the one set of the what is that adrenal glands. If you see the structure of the adrenal gland broadly classified or divided into two regions. The upper region we are calling as medulla, the lower region we are calling as what is that cortex. Then if you want to go depth about the adrenal gland structure, the cortex region of the adrenal gland or the adrenal gland classified into or divided into three regions mainly. The first region or peripheral region, that is called as what is that zona glomerula. That means the zone which is present upper region, that is called as zona glomerula. Then the second region of the adrenal gland, that is called as zona fasciculata. Then the third region, that is called as zona reticularis. These are the three important regions which we are finding in the adrenal gland. Then out of these three regions, the first region, that is called as zona glomerula, only 10% which is taking the part of the adrenal gland. Zona fasciculata is big, like what is that more or less what is that 80% of the adrenal gland contained by this zona fasciculata. Then very less region, that is called as zona reticularis. Then we will see what are the hormones which is released from these three regions. Zona glomerula mainly releasing the hormone that is called as glucocorticoids. Glucocorticoids. The main glucocorticoid which is released from the region of the zona glomerula of adrenal gland, that is called as aldosterone, which is useful for the glucose metabolism. That means indirectly you can say that the glucose will be synthesized from the different types of the source. For example, if you are synthesizing the glucose from the non-carbohydrate source, that is called as gluconeogenesis, lipolysis, or what is that glycogenolysis. Mainly the glucose concentration increasing in our body, this is called as the glucose metabolism by aldosterone. Then the second hormone which is released from the what is that zona fasciculata, that is called as mineralocorticoid, you can also call as cortisol. The mineral concentrations, especially sodium, potassium, calcium, all these minerals which is present in our body mainly maintained by this corticocorticoid, that is called as cortisol or cortisol. Okay, these are the important thing. There is one important disease you can find in view of glucocorticoids, that is called as Addison's disease. Because you see, when glucose entering into the cell, it needs a importer, it needs a carrier, that is a sodium. I mean to say that when there is a low concentration of your aldosterone, then sodium accumulation, that means sodium reabsorption from the renal tubule will be very less, then it is causing a disease that is called as Addison's disease. It is very important disease in view of pathophysiology with relation to the adrenal gland. Then coming into the last region, that is called as the zona reticularis. The zona reticularis will be releasing the sex corticoids like androgens. That means the hormones which is released from the gonads, some extent will be stimulated by these corticoids, and just now madam said that some steroidal hormones, especially the androgen hormones, like what is that these hormones mainly what is that steroidal hormones. Broadly you can say that adrenal gland also releasing the two hormones, that is epinephrine and norepinephrine, or adrenaline or noradrenaline. For example, if I am seeing a snake, some persons will go and kill the snake, but some persons they will see afraid and what is that they will go far from the snake. That's why one hormone that is called as adrenaline, like 3F hormone, that is fight, flight and fear. That's why this 3F hormone we are calling this hormone. This is a very important hormones which you can find like adrenaline and non-adrenaline. Some extent we will also discuss this epinephrine, non-epinephrine in view of parasympathetic system in a nervous system. This is about the main endocrine glands which you are finding in our body.
Very well said about all the different types of the endocrine system or the glands of the parathyroid, the thyroid glands, the pancreas and the adrenals. Now, the students, you have to understand that in the thyroid, as sir said, the most important is the T3 and the T4 hormones that are useful for the metabolic activities. And also sir also said, stressed on the importance of iodine in this particular hormone. As we have seen that iodine is very much important during the fetus development, that is during the development of the brain, the iodine is so important that it increases the intellectual quotient in a child. any deficiency will lead to compromise of the intelligent quotient in the children. So, that is the reason why we have these advertisements for the iodized salt, where they stress upon the need of the salt. Not only in the salt, we find naturally in other foods like the fishes, that is a marine fish usually has lots of this iodine. So, it is very good to take marine fishes as our daily diet, or if not daily, you can just use it in a weekly basis. And you also find this in the milk products, the cheese products, and also in some vegetables you find the iodine. So, that is the importance of iodine in our system, which we have to maintain, otherwise we will have a hypothyroidism or hypothyroidism problem, as that is of the goiter. So, luckily nowadays we do not find much of this goiter disease, that is because of the iodine present in our diet, which we are taking it in a regular way. Now, coming to pancreas, we had also seen about the hormones, very important hormones, the insulin and the glucagon. Now, you can understand why we were talking about the hormones maintains the homeostasis in our body. Insulin and the glucagon, which maintains the glucose level in our body. If the glucose is increasing, insulin acts upon it to store the excess glucose, because we do not want to waste the excess glucose. So, we want to store them in our liver or in a form of fat, and then if there is less glucose, that is during starvation or during fasting, you must have wondered how you are able to fast. One day you are eating all the 3-course meal, and another day you try to fast yourself. Now, why are we able to survive even during fasting? Is because the stored glycogen or the stored glucose which is present in our body is broken down and released into the bloodstream, which maintains the homeostasis in our body. Now, if there is any problem in this, then you have this type 1 and type 2 diabetes, which we will ask, sir, what is the difference of type 1 and type 2? And then you must have also listened to the adrenal glands, that is the hormones of the adrenal glands, and you must have also seen this fight or flight mechanism. Now, these hormones are the ones which makes each and every person different from one another. That is because of the production of the hormones. So, as sir said, some people are ready to fight, some people run away, is all because of the production of the hormones in us. And then you will also find that when you are driving a vehicle at a higher speed, you have an adrenal rush. That is a satisfaction that you have, that you are achieving something, or a satisfaction of yes, you are doing something great, is because of this adrenal hormones. Sir, we would the viewers would like to know what is the difference between type 1 and type 2 diabetes of this pancreas.
Okay, madam. Nowadays we are finding the two types of mainly the what is that, more or less 20 to 25% of the worldwide population suffering with the diabetes mellitus or diabetes. Mainly the diabetes means increasing the glucose concentration in the blood. It is about like 300 or to 400, or some extent some also you can also find the what is that for 500, 600, then leading to the different types of malfunctions or physiological pathophysiology in our body. And then coming into the classification of diabetes mellitus. Diabetes mellitus has classified into type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes. First we will discuss in whom we will find the type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes. Type 1 diabetes we will find in the juvenile diabetes. You can also call as a juvenile diabetes, that means genetically you will find this disease. Then type 2 diabetes you can also call the onset, like what is that, in view of age or in view of our what is that physiological role in our body, then our what is that exercise, if you are not doing exercise, if you are lethargy, you are what means if you have hypertension, it is causing the after 40 or after 45, nowadays after 35 also, because of stress we are finding a disease that is called as type 1 diabetes. Then coming into the what is type 1 diabetes. Type 1 diabetes you can also call as IDDM, that means insulin dependent diabetes mellitus. Sir, what is this insulin dependent diabetes mellitus? That means the diabetes mellitus which is causing because of the low concentration of insulin in the bloodstream. Why you will find the low concentration of the what is that insulin in our bloodstream? Mainly, just now you can also call this type 1 diabetes as autoimmune type 1 diabetes. There are some auto antibodies which is released from our body, then targeting the beta cells and destructing the beta cells. Then in islets of the Langerhans, the number of the what is that insulin producing cells, that is called as the beta cells, will be decreased. When the beta cells number is decreasing, obviously the concentration of the insulin will be decreased in our bloodstream, then which is causing a what is that hyperglycemic level or hyperglycemic disease in our body, that is called as type 1 diabetes. That means this is directly having the relation with your insulin concentration. That is why this is called as insulin dependent diabetes mellitus. This is called as a type 1 diabetes. Then coming into the type 2 diabetes, the classification based upon the concentration. You see, in type 2 diabetes mellitus individuals or human beings, you will find the optimum number of or normal number of the beta cells and optimum concentration of the insulin, but some of the cells especially having the resistance against the insulin. That means every cell having the insulin receptors, the insulin will come and bind to the cell, then it will open the glucose and it will take the glucose uptake and convert the glucose into glycogen. But if there is no receptor, then what will be happen? You have the money, but the money does not have the what is that importance, then there is no use with that money. Like that, you will be having the optimum concentration of the insulin, but the receptor which is present on the cell, if it is not what is that activated or stimulated by that insulin, there is no use of that insulin. That is why this is called as non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus. You can also call as what is that type 2 diabetes. Mainly you will find this type 2 diabetes in the old age people like 40, 45 because of their what is that physiological roles in the normal general what is the daily functions. This is the difference between the type 1 and type 2 diabetes.
Sir, and after this we will have to discuss even about the hormones of the gonads.
Yes,
so, if you can just briefly explain to us what are the importance.
Yes, thank you. You see, nowadays which is very important in the especially not only in endocrine system, in reproductive physiology we will also find this gonads. There are two types of gonads. Mainly you will find, if you are talking about the females, we will find the ovary as the gonads. If you are talking about the males, we will talk testis as a gonad. These are the two types of gonads, that means ovaries and testis. We won't discuss male and female, we will discuss as ovaries and testis. Ovaries will release the two important hormones, that is estrogen and progesterone. Estrogen and progesterone. Mainly estrogen will be produced or synthesized from the what is that Graafian follicle, that means developed egg. The Graafian follicle will release a secondary sexual hormone that is called as estrogen. This estrogen mainly useful for the development of the what is that secondary sexual characteristics in the female individual. Not only secondary sexual characteristics, it is also useful for the maintaining the pregnancy. Then coming into the second hormone, that is called as progesterone hormone. After just now we said that we discussed about the LH hormone. That means the developed egg will take out from the Graafian follicle or pop out from the Graafian follicle. Then you will find a shell. That shell we are calling as a Graafian follicle shell, that is called as corpus luteum. This corpus luteum also will release a steroidal hormone that is called as progesterone. This progesterone is useful for the maintaining the pregnancy as well as releasing the what is that some extent of estrogen. That means what is that maintaining the optimum concentration of the estrogen. This is the main two hormones which is released from the gonads. Then some extent what is that your placenta also will release the estrogen. Then coming into the male what is that reproductive hormones from the testis, there is one hormone that is called as what is the testosterone. In testis we will find the two types of cells. If you see the what is that histology of the testis, we will find the two types of the cells, that is called as Leydig cells and Sertoli cells. Leydig cells will release the secondary sexual hormone in the male, that is called as testosterone. This testosterone is useful for the development of the spermatozoa or spermatids, the active cells which is useful for the fertilization with the egg, that is called as what is the testosterone. Then what is the function of this Sertoli cells? Sertoli cells is useful for the nourishment of the developing what is that Leydig cells. These are the one hormone which is released from the what is that in male. This is about the what is that reproductive hormones or gonads in view of endocrine physiology.
So, very quickly we would like to have an importance of the thymus and the pineal gland very quickly, sir. As we are running.
Thank you. You see, the pineal gland you can find in the brain region beside your thalamic region or hypothalamic region, that is called as pineal gland, a small structure. The pineal gland you can also see what is that in the last slide I kept that, you see that is the pituitary gland in the thank you slide. Beside the pituitary gland you will find the pineal gland. Pineal gland will release a hormone that is called as melanin, very important hormone. Melanin is useful for the maintaining the circadian rhythms. If you see the birds or if you see the human being, we will wake up at 6 o'clock and we will sleep at 9 p.m. We will wake up at 6 a.m. and we will sleep at 9 p.m. That means this maintaining the 24-hour cycle in our body, mainly because of this is called as a biological cycle, mainly because of this pineal gland, that is hormone that is called as melanin. Then as you said that, coming into the thymus, I think in introductory part you said about the anatomical view of the thymus gland. Thymus gland mainly you will find in the mediastinum region. That means the thorax region as what is that classified into two regions, especially below the pelvic what is that your clavicle region, this is called as mediastinum region. This mediastinum region having the thymus will release a important gland that is called as the thymosin, which is useful for the development of the different types of immune cells. This is about the thymus.
So, viewers, you have understood what is the importance of the pineal gland and the thymus. The pineal gland, which is important for the production of the melatonin, that is our biological clock, the day and night clock. When the stimulus is coming towards our eyes saying that it is dark, now we are going to sleep, is when the production of the melatonin occurs, and when that is when the body wants to sleep and take rest. So, that is the importance of the pineal gland. And as I said, the thymus gland, the importance of the thymus gland is the maturation of the T cells. Now, we have understood in the immune system we have B cells and the T cells. The cells that are produced from the bone marrow, B cells are the ones that remains in the bone marrow and goes for the WBC activation, whereas the T cells are the very specific cells which have to act on the specific antigens. So, they go into the thymus for the maturation, that is they have to graduate themselves to exactly fight against that specific antigen. So, they have to mature in the thymus cells and then get into the immune system for the activity of the WBCs. So, these are some of the important points on the endocrine system. And other than this endocrine system, we have secondary endocrine system, that is the main endocrine system we found is the pituitary gland, the thyroid gland, the pancreas, the adrenal glands and the gonads. Now, other than this, you have some secondary endocrine glands, that is our bone, the heart, the liver, the kidneys, and of course, you have even the gonads. So, there are different types of hormones that are produced in according with the main of the endocrine system. Students, we have lots to discuss on this endocrine system, and because we are running out of time, we will have to stop our program at this time. And as I said, if you have any doubts, you can call upon the number to the Department of Zoology, Dr. Ambedkar Open University, and you can clear your doubts. Thank you very much, Dr. Sridhar, for a beautiful explanation of the endocrine system. Thank you, viewers.